What is up, guys, and welcome back once again to another episode of the Ebby Space Agency Career Mode playthrough here on Kerbal Space Program. We are here then for episode number 10 of the series, and off the back of a pretty decent episode last time out, we managed to put probes on another planet. That's right, we hit Duna. We managed to successfully put some technology on the surface there, and also managed to design our first rover, although the results were a little bit mixed. I'll let you go back and watch that to see exactly what I'm on about. But we now look to progress that, and we received a letter in the mail at the Kerbal Space Center today from a couple of disgruntled Kerbals living in the middle of nowhere. I don't know where they managed to find pen and paper or even comprehend how to write, but they did point out that we've been launching things into space for quite a while now, and yet we have not discovered how to make things fly without explosives. So we took that as a personal challenge, and we have decided that we are in fact going to look into that. So Werner von Kerman and Gene Kerman have sat around the table. They've come up with some hastily drawn pictures of possible ideas on the back of a napkin, and they are hurriedly running over towards the spaceplane hangar now to start designing it. And you see there, we are taking a contract as well to start an airline, because we figured, hell, if these guys are going to point out our mistakes, well, we're going to strap them into the aircraft with us while we test it. We do go over to the administration building quickly as well and ask for some funding, figure out how we're going to make this turn a profit, before then starting to get the duct tape out and get some spare rocket parts and turn them into something that flies horizontally and not straight up. So you see here, we're designing just a very rudimentary plane. We don't have a lot of we don't have many particularly fancy or technologically advanced parts available to us, but we do have the procedural wings mod by B9, so we are able to design something that looks a little bit unique before we then upgrade the spaceplane hangar, because we realized we ran out of parts limit. Basically, we had to upgrade it, but then we then proceed to wheel ourselves out onto the runway to see if this thing does in fact fly. And I'll show you the inaugural takeoff of the first KSP plane right now. One sec. Want it locked. Rotate! There we go. And by God, would you know, it did in fact take off. It turns out if you throw anything fast enough, it does go into the air eventually. Luckily, we do maintain control of it. It doesn't just fall apart in the middle of the air into a shower of hopes and dreams and failure. You see the airline examiner there hopping into the cockpit just to see, make sure Jeb's not too wasted on the job before having a look around the rest of the aircraft, making sure there's no holes and no bits too flimsy before we then she then retakes her seat. Jeb seems to be enjoying himself, to be fair. In the corner, you see him smiling away as he is test flying this new aircraft. And we put her through her paces a little bit. We test the banking and all that sort of stuff, and fly around the volumetrics cloud, the volumetric clouds mod. Jesus, the volumetrics cloud mod does look fantastic and absolutely earns its money here while we are in the process of testing this aircraft. And you see we take a nice eventually we decide it is time to come home. We take a nice long approach back to the Kerbal Space Center, just to try and give ourselves as good a possible chance of landing this thing in one piece. We didn't test this thing in simulations or anything beforehand. We just went straight into it. But we do we do actually realize we don't have a method of slowing this thing down other than just not having the engines running. And yeah, Jeb kind of realizes this a bit late, bounces off the runway and decides it's just time to go around. There's no putting this thing down with the amount of runway left. The inspector, bless her, she was not having a good time. But Jeb loved it. Jeb was in his element here, right? Absolutely just sat there vibing. But we do, fortunately, thanks to the Vans KSC mod, have several larger runways that we can utilize, and that is what Jeb does here. He decides he's going to line up for the biggest possible runway that we have available to make sure that we have enough time to slow down, and takes a bit more of a gentle approach this time. Doesn't slam it into the runway quite as tough as last time, and manages to keep ourselves nice and slow before just kissing the ground and placing the aircraft down. Thankfully, all in one piece, no fireballs, and we can safely say that the KSC has indeed passed its airline inspection test, and we have proven that you can, in fact, throw things sideways through the air, not just up. It was a bit of a long taxi back to the airfield, back to the spaceplane hangar there. You see the sun had fully set by the time we got to the from one end of the airfield to the other, but we do park up and receive our certification, which I'm sure we're going to try and use straight away as we take a mission to try and land somewhere other than where we set off from. So now that we have our certification, we have the words out, and we are indeed going to try and unlock certain airfields around Kerbin, but not before we design a new aircraft. So we figured if we can make things go quickly sideways, and we can make things go quickly up, can we maybe combine the two? And that is where we start throwing together this aircraft here, the Huey. Get Fortunate Sun plane in the background, right? But I'm going to pass you over to how that went. Now. Thingy. Transflight, clear takeoff. Yeah! And look at it, it works. Yeah, we nearly went down a bit too much at the takeoff there, but we do in fact make this helicopter work, and we take ourselves on a nice little flight over to the island airfield, where we take a bit of a longer approach. I've got to be honest, flying helicopters in KSP isn't exactly the smoothest experience. It's not exactly a flight sim, right? So it was a little bit janky at times, but we do thankfully manage to put her down nice and gently, and get our certification from the island airfield to do commercial contracts there throughout, well, basically in perpetuity. We then take off and make our way back home. It was quite fun. I mean, this Huey is part of a mod that adds Huey and Chinook parts. The Chinook is a little bit janky, but the Huey does in fact work. You just got to get used to flying it, and it was great fun, to be fair. But you see, now we do head back into the mission control area, take a couple of new contracts. Remember last episode we did get that error, which means that we did lose our space telescope due to a bug. I still don't know what caused it. It was just a random vessel loading error, right? So we did lose that craft, but it does give us an excuse to design ourselves a new craft. With new and improved parts, we do use some science points to gain a better camera on this thing, so we can look a bit further into space. So yeah, it's silver linings and all that. You know, we are going to then be able to check out planets a bit smaller and a bit further out and get more science that way as well. And really figure out, plug away at the depths of our solar system for information. But yeah, you see us there just finishing off the design of this new telescope, and yeah, you see us there just finishing off the launch stage and working through some staging. We did take a contract on this to put it into what's called a collinear orbit. You'll see it visualized in just a moment. So we are on a specific kind of orbit, which meant we are going to be taking a fairly specific kind of launch profile here. It's not just your standard pitch over onto 90 degrees. We do have to take a bit of an angled ascent on launch here, and we are also going to put a probe core right in the center as our control point, so it makes it easier to aim this thing. But I'm going to hand you over to past me as we attempt to reach the orbit that you see on your screen now. Yeah, see us just fast forward there, but enjoy. Come on. So it did prove quite unwieldy to fly this thing, to be fair. I kind of had to wait for the boosters to burn out before we started making our turn. But you see we're very high up. We're like 35k and we still haven't made any kind of turn. But we do eventually pitch over, and we match the inclination of the orbit that we're supposed to be hitting, the collinear orbit. And the rest of the flight kind of does go fairly easily. Like there was no massive showstoppers. Again, no flips that we did with a few of the previous launches. It was all nice and controlled, and it was just more a focus of trying to keep the inclination of the orbit similar to what the contract wanted. I probably could have done a better job of aligning the Space Center with the ascending and descending nodes for this orbit, just to make it a bit smoother and a bit more neat. But we do a good enough job, and the more important thing at this stage is obviously reaching orbit, right? Which we do eventually manage without too much drama, and we were high up enough on ascent that we didn't really have any real risk of falling back down to curb. And you see there we're circularizing at 100 kilometers up, so yeah, no issues whatsoever as we burn out. I say we burn out the rest of the fuel on that stage. We actually managed to reach orbit with the launch stage alone. The boosters obviously did their job; they got dropped off. But this is still the original stage. This is we've not staged anything else here, guys. So again, this just shows how much I over-engineer my craft. We still have another 3 kilometers of delta V in the tank on this thing. We are at orbital velocity now. I have a bit of a problem, guys. I'm not gonna lie. But luckily, we do get better at it with time. But we pop the solar panels on, and we then start burning to match the orbit. So you see us setting up our maneuver node there. And yeah, luckily, because we do have enough delta V, we can kind of just brute force the orbit to match during the burn. So even then, it only takes about 700 meters per second compared to the 3,500 that we've got. We could probably set this up in a similar orbit around Eve for this for the amount of fuel that we have. But we make the burn. Nothing really exciting about it. We've made plenty of burns like this. Well, I'll say like this. We've made plenty of bigger burns at this point. Got on our way to Minmus or Eve or now Duna. We're starting to tick off some of these celestial bodies now, guys. So these burns aren't particularly crazy anymore. So all we're doing is basically just burning until we see the contract tick off as completed, right? We want to make sure that it doesn't necessarily have to be perfect to match. It just needs to be close enough, and you'll see that green line does disappear quite early on before before we hit it. So yeah, the contract gets satisfied, and ultimately we get the payouts. And yeah, we keep the telescope there. It will eventually get replaced at some point when before we well, I say before as we create more advanced opticals. You know, we'll probably design another telescope and stick it in orbit around Kerbin, where we can sort of stick it on the outside of both the moons, so it doesn't get obstructed by any of them. And you know, I just feel like I want to design a deep space telescope, so you know, I want it to be in deep space, or at least around Kerbin, if not interplanetary. But you see there, the transfer stage, we have so much delta V in it. We still that we're able to completely deorbit it, and you know, we stuck a probe core in there just for that specific purpose, so that we don't litter up space. Because the last thing we need is some sort of runaway debris effect, right? So we do deorbit it here, and you see it just burning up in the atmosphere. So it stays out of orbit and doesn't ram into anything important when we're trying to build stuff. And yeah, the telescope is now ready for its first missions, and that is to take a picture of Duna and Minmus. So even though we got the better optics on board, we aren't really aiming all that far right now. So we're just gonna quickly take a picture of Minmus. We've been there a few times, so we're gonna see if we can see the plaques of one of the missions super up close, see how high def this camera is. But yeah, you see Minmus filling up the aperture there. Yeah, nice, easy. We do get a good amount of science, considering it's for Minmus, right? We do get a good amount of science for that, and yeah, we transmit that away before we then turn our sights towards the red planet. We've already put probes down there, but again, you know, the photo equipment with the photo equipment we had on the probes, a little bit black and white, a little bit bland, so we're going to take a bit more high-def photos, and again, start mapping it out, ready to try and identify potential landing sites later on, before we then head back to the Kerbal Space Center. We let the scientists and the designers sleep before we then decide we're going to try and unlock a few more airports. The airline business seems to be quite lucrative, so we actually design ourselves a new aircraft, and yeah, I mean, I'll show you the first launch of it now, guys. So enjoy. Okay, let's go, I guess. I hope this works. Hi, I'm rotating. There we go. So yeah, you see we've designed ourselves a new aircraft, now with the ability to slow down, more importantly, while still in the air. We tried to base it on a sort of loose, like, private jet design, right? With the idea being that we've achieved flight, we can start being a bit more comfortable when we're flying around. And yeah, we took a nice little first-person takeoff there before we arrive at our first given aircraft a purpose destination, which is Kola Island. It's in the same chain of islands as the island airfield, right? So it's not too far, and we do a bit of a rough landing there, but thankfully all still in one piece before we then taxi our way off the runway to take up position at the terminal. speak to the airfield owners, say, look at our lovely plane, wouldn't you want people to arrive here on holiday before they sign the paperwork, and we line back up ready to take another take to the skies once again. You see another, I like the first person sort of takeoffs every now and then when the frame rate and stuff like that permits, right? But yeah, we take off with no issues, and we're going to head back to the Kerbal Space Center to give Jean and Werner the good news that the aircraft firstly works and it doesn't kill everyone on board, but also that we have a new destination to add to our roster of partner airfields, right? And the good news is, obviously, because we now have landing rights to this airfield, we can pretty much use it whenever we need to, really. So not just for commercial flights, also operational flights. And yeah, we get a lovely view of the island airfield as we overfly it on our way back home. And we set ourselves up with a nice landing. We were going for the central runway there, but Gwenini decided she wanted to outdo Jeb and actually put it down on the shorter runway on this flight to try and get bragging rights on Jeb in the astronaut complex, because obviously he did have to go around earlier in the day for the other flight. So yeah, she does eventually put it down. A bit of a bounce and a bit of a rough landing. Tokyo drifts it just for extra style points, but we do come to a stop before taxiing to the hangar. And yeah, that is that flight done. The new aircraft works, and thankfully we're going to live to fly another day, right? But that is the end of this episode as well. We got a new aspect to the space program to play around with. All right, we have our own little airline, and we'll see how that develops over time. What flight operations we can come up with, and how that affects our ability to explore the solar system. But for now, guys, thank you very much for watching. As always, it's been a pleasure, and I will see you all in the next one. Goodbye.